Welcome to Equip, the podcast by Connection Church. My name is Jordan Thigpen. Today I'm joined by Quentin Thurman, Kathy Rentz, Kate, Catherine Rentz, and Russ DeMott. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to talk about just a general global missions update of all things global missions, the life of our church. We've had a lot of Great Commission activity the last month or so. Yeah. And so you three goofballs went to Engage Global, which I'm very excited to hear a report back. I've never heard anyone go that did not have their socks blown off, and it's come back and shaped. Really, now that I think about it, most of the Connection Underground team are people that have gone through Engage Global, and now they are positioned very strategically in the life of our church to support the work of long-term missions in the life of our church. And so I just got back from Central Asia. We traveled over there to see a long-term missions team to see if two of our own workers, the Cohens, would be a good fit with their team and what they have going on. And I have a few thoughts that I'd like to share as far as that update. And so, but I want to start with you guys. I know there's obviously more of you than there are of me, and I'd love to hear what you guys saw. What did you feel? What did you feel like the Lord showed you? I know you guys are less than 24 hours from landing, and so just start there, just in general.
Well, you said getting our socks blown off. I haven't found my socks. I don't know where they're at. They're gone. I think that I just have like completely, it's just like a eye opening. Like I was talking to Chris in my office a little bit ago, and I feel like the only way I can explain it, which sounds drastic, but please believe me, is like I feel like there's a part of me that died. Like there is a Quentin pre-Engage Global that is dead.
Wow.
And I laugh and that's funny, but it's like I'm learning how to walk again. I'm learning how to engage with my Heavenly Father again. I'm learning how to engage with God's Word again. Like I feel like I have died, and I'm like having to review or view in a new way life and what that looks like for me right now.
Wow.
And so I think that's just a lot of the still trying to figure it outness of all of this is that my eyes have been opened, and now there's circumstance that necessarily hasn't changed. I still came back to the same position and life as it is, but there's a new me with new desires, with new understandings, with new realities and convictions. And so I think just like a baby deer trying to learn how to walk, that's how I feel right now.
Yeah. I think new revelation brings new accountability.
Yeah.
You feel the weight of, well, I can't unknow that now.
Yeah, for sure.
That's right.
And so I think that's some of probably every person that we've ever sent to Engage Global, that's one of the big conclusions is I kind of knew, but I didn't know to this degree. So kind of staying on that point, what were some of the things that contributed to the overall revelation, what you learned, what you came back with, what contributed to, what were some of the big knowledge-based things that you just can't unknow now?
Yeah. I think one of those is the actual gospel thread that runs through all of the Bible. Yeah. And
everybody comes back saying that.
I could use a bunch of different language that they're going to use at Engage Global. I can use, enjoy my grace, extend my glory. I can use, my knowledge of Scripture has not been incorrect, but it's been incomplete. But I think for me, that revelation, and to Q's point of dying, I felt something very similar of something was crucified in me there that now is I've nailed that to the cross, and I'm not coming back with it. And I think that even in some of my conversations, I'm realizing where I have known things in the Bible, but I've only known them partially. I've only known oh, that was really cool, that was a blessing for me, But like, what about the second half of that says now I'm supposed to be a blessing to the nations?
Yeah.
I've had this prayer prayed over me since I was a child about may God be gracious to you and shine his face upon you and bless you and keep you. But the second half of that says that God's name would be exalted among the nations and that all people would experience salvation.
Yeah.
Like, why did I not know that? Why was I only taught the blessing for me, but not the blessing to the rest of the people in the world and to the ends of the earth?
Yeah.
And so now, to Q's point, like, man, I come back with something that I can't unknow that has, like, burdened my heart more than anything I've ever experienced in my entire life and has changed the way I think about prayer, has changed the way I think about the things that me and my 7-year-old and 5-year-old son talk about. That's changed. It's changed everything.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here goes the emotions.
That's okay. That's
But
good.
like, I mean, and I'm just being, I'm always real and raw with y'all, but with the podcast, like, I sat in my living room and cried for 30 minutes last night of like, this burden now can't just be shoved in the corner somewhere. Like, it's here and it's not going anywhere. And it's going to change how I do things. It's going to change how I talk about things. It's going to change how I see things.
Yeah.
And that was like the biggest revelation for me is I feel like God gave me like a new set of glasses to see things through. And they're maybe one step closer to his glasses, like how he sees things. And that's a gift.
I've always heard Billy pray that, like, God, give us your eyes to see people the way you see people. And I think, and having an understanding of like what God is seeing, because God sees the nations, and that's some of the problem is that we don't.
Yeah.
We don't see the nations in a lot of ways, and so there's something too, like just this something that helps organize and make sense of the story of the Bible. We talked about that when you guys get to listening to the hermeneutics lectures that we're going through for CLP, that it states it in one sentence of what is the story of the Bible? Well, the third clause, the third portion of it is it's God's desire that he would rule over all the nations.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
When you finally kind of like have your senses open to it,
Yeah.
you're like, it is kind of, it begins to get into Brandon's sermon yesterday. We are in a spiritual battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
sure.
for the believer of like, why are my eyes so, cataract to this reality?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also want to make sure that we're doing a service to the people that are listening, and I don't want to guard too much. And so, like, I think it's plain, because I know, like, even Russ, as you were talking, like, there's, like, the language of, like, we're to do this and we're to not do this, and we've been kind of doing this and we've not. But I think it's just, like, the plain fact of to be a Christian, like, there's already a command. There's already a mandate that's given to all Christians, not just your Cohens, not just your missionaries that we send out here that like we pray on it and go, but like every single one of us has been given this command of go and make disciples, not just in Statesboro, but of all nations. And so like that has been opened up in my mind of like, I knew it, I would say it, I believed it, but like it is my responsibility. It is your responsibility. It's every single one of us that we would call in the name of Christ. Like we talk about, you get rescued and then you're part of the rescue team. And so often we think about that of like, oh, locally, right? And for sure, like there's discipleship locally that has to happen. There's the salvation, baptism, and then teaching that has to happen all over the place. But there are people that don't have anyone. There are millions of people that no one is reaching, that they don't know who Christ is. They have no one there to disciple them. And we are so saturated here in America with, you talk about a church on every street corner and every opportunity to go and hear the gospel, every opportunity to be involved in the mission. But there are people that have no opportunity. And there are even people that are held in bondage by other religions, that they are held in bondage of this is what it means to be a Somalian, is that I'm a Muslim.
Yeah.
So there's no category for them of Somalian Christian. There's no category in their minds of a Hmong person out of Laos of being a Christian. It's to be that means that you follow these tribal cultures. And so there's no one there to say this is who Jesus is, and I want to engage with you, and I want to understand who you are as a person, and then I want to contextualize this for you, that it's not just, hey, here's John 3:16, God loved the world, you should believe in him, but that it's like, where are you at? What do you understand? Like there's no one there for those people, and like that is the reality of this now, that like I can't unsee that, I can't unhear that, I can't unbelieve that means me.
Yeah.
And that means all of us who would call in the name of Christ, that like we don't just get to stand here and say, oh, I'll just sit at home, and
Right.
that can't be for me.
Yeah.
But like every single one of us, like we fall under that burden.
And I think that's the thing that Engage Global does the best out of anybody I've ever seen, is the galvanizing around it. Of it compels you now to live differently, because like we're kind of highlighting, the information is kind of all over the place. It's just the recruiting aspect of it, the galvanizing of compelling you to go. Kate, what about for you?
I think the string of scripture, like we at the very beginning, like he had asked us like what scriptures come to mind when you start to think about like missions and mission trips and all the things, and obviously like Matthew 28, it was the first one said, and like it was mostly from the New Testament. And it was cool because then we did this like exercise where we really did put like string together all of the scriptures, and most of them were from the Old Testament. So it's like from cover to cover, from the beginning in Genesis to the end in Revelation, the nations are mentioned in everywhere. And I think that, like Russ was saying, like the realization of like that is in the Bible, and I know the first half of that verse, but I didn't know that the nations were in the second half of that verse. And like, so yeah, I think a lot of like walking out feeling like, dang, I probably should know my scripture better than what I do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think too, like something I learned was just the intentionality of, and this comes with reading scripture and being willing to like dig in and understand it, but like, what was the purpose that the Israelites were in slavery in Egypt? What was the purpose that the promised land was where it was at?
Yeah.
What was the purpose of Moses kind of, having this moment of arguing and going to God on behalf of the Israelites of don't just wipe them out before they get to enter the promised land, because your reputation of who you are as God is on the line. And when you begin to put all that together, it's just like, there it is. Like God from the beginning of time was to make his glory known among all nations. And there's a reason and a purpose and a plan behind everything that he's done through all of these events. And that is like incredible.
Yeah.
Y'all were out yesterday, but on Sunday. So now when this comes out, this will be now 2 Sundays ago, that Brandon talked about that of like, that was God's desire from the very beginning.
Yeah.
That the goal was to be fruitful and multiply, and the 3 different occurrences of the fall are reversing or hindering or destroying that, and that we're supposed, that every time he addresses that fall, he still gets them back to the same creation endeavor, which was to be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth.
Yeah.
Right.
And he puts them back on mission. So
And the crazy thing is I believe that Brandon has taught that multiple times.
Yeah.
And me and Tyler were talking about this earlier. It's like, it's not new information.
Yeah.
It's just Engage Global does such a great job of making it so clear.
I think
that
information is just different than revelation.
it just somehow, it's just like it clicks. And it's like, how have I missed this?
Right.
How have I grown up my whole life and not understood this concept, and what is required of me now as a believer, that my salvation was not about me.
Yeah.
It was about God's glory.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a tough burden to carry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What so that's some of the content of it, and I'd encourage anybody in our church I say anybody, probably people listening to this podcast, that I'd encourage you to go to Engage Global and
Please.
experience this for yourself. I know a lot of the theology of this is from a book called God's Bottom Line. It's Bob Sjogren, Sjogren, however you pronounce that. And it's again, information's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just hard to repackage the whole Engage Global experience.
Yeah.
And so talk about some of the other aspects of it, of the people side to it. What you saw, what you experienced, how did they kind of lay out the weekend? Kate, you go first this time.
Okay. Like the people that I met and stuff?
Just anything that comes to mind aside from the teaching now, just like what did you observe? What did you see?
Like the application part, kind of. We went to like 2 different markets. One was for Hmong people. It's the Hmong market, and Hmong are from Laos, the country. And
Hmong are the type of people, the people group itself, and the country that houses the Hmong people
Laos.
is the Laotian.
And then we went to a Somalian mall, which was really, really cool. And I enjoyed both, but I really, 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 really enjoyed meeting people in the Somali market, and
Why?
going to the mosque and just hearing like so we went to the mosque because it was as we got there that we had like 15 minutes until the call to prayer. And we had like ended up running into because it was me and Audrey, and then we ran into Catherine and Ansley and then Sydney. And so we kind of all just like ended up with this one lady, and she like kind of just took us around, and she owns a drink shop there, and so like a coffee shop. But anyways, all that to say, she gave us Somali tea and some of their food for free. She was like, "Don't worry about it. It's all for you. Like, we're so glad that you're here, like, to experience and to support us." And just to hear like the things that she had faced, because she came as a refugee from the war and lost her mom and a lot of other family members in the war, and then lost her husband 4 or 5 years ago to COVID. And anyways, just hearing a lot of her story, it was definitely eye-opening to see like the kind of reality that she lives in versus the kind of reality that I've always known is very different. And then we went up to the mosque, and I was sitting next to this girl who's sitting on the floor, and she was finishing prayer. She finished, and then we started talking because they were friends. She told me that she had been a Muslim for 5 months. She had just converted, and her name is now Samara Noor. She changed her name when she converted. She was Christian. She grew up Christian, went agnostic because she said that she needed to be religiously single, which I thought was a very interesting way of explaining agnostic. But she was like, I wanted to be agnostic because I wanted to be religiously single. And then she was like, slowly over the years, like I've always been interested in Islam teachings and stuff. And she like had stopped eating pork 4 years ago. Like she was like, I slowly started like adapting or like adopting the Muslim lifestyle and culture. And then she was like, then 5 months ago, I was like, I think I'm ready to profess my faith. And she did. And now she wears the hijab. She wears I forget what it's called, but it's where you can only see their eyes. Burqa. The burqa. Even though she was like, I know that's more Arab, but she was like, it makes me, she kept saying it makes her feel scary because she knows people are scared of it. And she likes feeling scary because then that means nobody's going to approach her and bother her. And so it seemed like she had a very...
sounds like it's a lot about her.
Yes, and in describing like why she left Christianity and stuff, like in our conversation, it was more about like the way that people made her feel, and it was very convicting because she said, she quoted scripture. She was like, you know, in the Bible it says you will know them by their fruit, and she was like, the fruit that I saw was fruit I wanted nothing to do with, and I was like, whew,
Yeah.
okay, and true, like there are a lot of people out there that I'm like, you know, but you're Christian, so it's like, but I have very different like experience than her, obviously. So she just kept saying like she kept hearing people say sorry to her, and then there was no action behind it in Christianity, and so it'd be like I hurt Jordan's feelings, and I said sorry and continued to hurt his feelings, and
It feels like a today example.
whatever, you're fine.
There it is. See?
But they would say,
Keep playing, I'm going to put on a burqa.
hey, chill, bro. But she just kept saying like, I just saw no action behind their sorry, and it just felt like their words meant nothing, and so it was like she just kind of gave up. And she said that she felt like when watching Muslim people, she felt like Muslims had more action behind their words. They would say sorry and actually change. And she really appreciates that. And it broke my heart so much to talk to her, because it was like, I'm going to cry, so Russ 2.0. But it was just like the thought of the potential that she has and that I see in her. Like if she would just, like if her eyes would just open, like the passion that she had for like, she said that she's really passionate about activism and all the things. And she, like the way that she talked about Muslim, like her beliefs and like why all of these things, she was really well spoken. She was really passionate about it. And it broke my heart, because I was thinking like what a powerhouse for the gospel her personality would be. Like I could so see her being on the street, like telling people about Jesus, or going overseas and telling people about Jesus if she would believe the truth. But the enemy has, like, her eyes are just blinded. And anyways, so it was really convicting, but also really heartbreaking to talk to her, because I wanted so badly to be like, but that's not true, and be so defensive. And I had to be like, let me not make a face. Let me not like do anything that's going to like I just wanted to hear more from her. And I wish I had more time to talk to her, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So anyways.
And I think that's the hard part for probably a good takeaway for a lot of the folks that will probably listen to this, is that it's not actually knowing things that really changes. You know, a lot of times knowledge is a terrible substitute for transformation.
Right.
And that's her experience of people that claimed to know one thing and lived a life that was not transformed led to some of the decisions that she began to make, obviously. And that too, about like, it's not just like, well, here, but like if you just read this a little bit more closely, it's a spiritual transformation that hasn't occurred that is equally true for believers that are people that claim to be Christians that haven't been transformed as the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And so that is heartbreaking, though, of like to have found solace in our cousin religion.
Yeah, I think it really made me understand the weight of like, when I say that I am a Christian, like then like I need to actually be a Christian. Like the weight of saying that you are a Christian, and and that goes with any religion, but specifically with Christianity, like, because I am a Christian, people are going to look at me as a Christian. And if I'm not acting the way that a Christian should be, then, or if you're not acting the way a Christian should be, then you're misrepresenting Christ, you know?
And it's interesting, like, you know, it's interesting that like she said, here's who I'm claiming to be. Now my wardrobe should reflect it. My way of life should reflect it. And with Christianity, a lot of people, especially really specifically in America and Western forming cultures like Britain, France, Germany, etc., highlight all of the liberty, not the freedom, the liberty of I have the right to dress this way, live this way, eat this way, drink this way. And it is an interesting juxtaposition.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
Yeah.
yeah. Any other thoughts? What did you
thought-
see? What did you, what stood out to you and what
Yeah.
you experienced?
Something that if you have a chance to go to Engage Global, the language they're going to use is engage the person, not the religion.
Yeah.
And then just thinking about that of like, these people are in bondage, and, the Ephesians, that says we don't fight against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. And it's like, these people are in bondage. And so, we were talking about this some earlier of like, we just thought about like, well, that's dumb that they would worship that other idol or that other god, but like they're actually in bondage to something.
Yeah.
And so being willing to like engage the person and not think, well, they're just dumb because they're participating in Islam or.
I want to explain that and think about that just briefly.
Yeah.
When we say they're in bondage, part of what we're in part saying is like, oh, look, a slave. And that's a very serious thing to say about a person. But I want to explain, like, why do we use that language? Part of what's upstream from that is that what we're saying is that they are under the dominion of something. That there is no, like, free, like, autonomous human being. There are beings that transcend us. The one that we are touting as believers is the Most High God as revealed to us through Jesus. But there are other celestial spiritual beings that seek to dominate the human race. And part of that in the underpinning, what this is the claim of Christianity, is that the rest are under the dominion and reign of beings that are spiritual, that have a fundamental hate of humanity. So when we say they're under bondage, it's not because we're looking at them in judgment where we shouldn't be.
For sure.
Anyway.
And that's not what I meant.
No. I know you don't. But I'm saying when people hear that of like,
Yeah.
what we sound like are people who have been liberated,
Yeah.
and then we're looking at peasants that wear chains as
Right.
if they're slaves, and as if they're therefore dumb, uneducated, and that should not be our posture. We should see them as human beings that are actually God's children that have decided to leave His domain and rule and reign in sovereignty. Sovereignty not in the Calvinistic election sense, but under the protection of His kingship, and have given ourselves over to the dominion of other beings, thinking that it is for our good. That's what that girl thinks. Not seeing that true rest and peace and justice and mercy and kindness rests under the lordship of Jesus. But that over here, I've found this other thing that gives me more peace.
Yeah.
Not knowing that it is an exchange for a spiritual being that wants her demise. And that being will settle for your eternal separation from a holy God, as explained through Jesus Christ, or they will torture your life in such a way that you can't sleep, you feel guilt, you feel shame. A lot of it is enemy beings don't have self-control. They are happy to destroy you even at the host's own sickness regarding that dominion.
Yeah.
That's why you see people wanting freedom of like, I want to know who is God and what is He like, because this little thing that I'm under the sway of is killing me.
Yeah.
Whether it manifests in alcoholism, addiction, cycles of destructive relationships, or another competing religion. So that there's a theological underpinning to that. It's not just a trite, pithy saying to say they're under bondage and we're free. It's like there's what Russ is saying carries very serious weight of the picture that the scriptures paint. So sorry.
Yeah. Well, I was to say, we went into the Somali Mall, me and Carson, and we walk in, and this is, to my knowledge, kind of his first time like being outside, really in a culture that significant of not being American. And we walk in, and we're looking for somebody kind of that, like a person of peace, or somebody that's just willing to like have a conversation. and we run into these two girls, and they're like smile on their face, and they say, "How are y'all doing?" And I open my mouth and say, "Good," and they're like, "You're from Georgia," and I'm like, "How do you know that?" And they're like, "Because we're from Georgia," and we meet these two girls who had been basically raised in Lawrenceville, and we just immediately hit it off, and it's like we've known each other our whole lives and became best of friends, and found out all about her family, her sisters, her brothers, her aunts, her uncles, her mom, her dad, her grandfathers, and like 10 or 12 of her family members are now currently working in businesses inside of the Somali Mall, and so they take us around like we're a celebrity and introduce us to all their families, and we're getting to have all these incredible conversations about their culture and what marriage looks like and what dating.
So they're from Lawrenceville, but they're Somali
refugees
and
now
they
have
relocated
moved
to Minneapolis
because there's
and
a
so
large
they're Muslim.
There's a large Somali presence, so
Right.
now they can all be a part of their culture together.
There's
And
Somali Muslims that recognize your accent from Georgia.
yeah, and that's so cool.
So Russ used another word there of a person of peace. That's sort of what that's like on the mission field, and that's what people on the mission field are. They're looking for that person, sort of that encounter, and they're looking for the person that all of a sudden just opens this door to these other relationships of like just an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's what Paul means when he says, "I've found a wide door for ministry in Ephesus."
That's right.
And we've been with David.
Yeah.
When that happened,
Yeah.
And it's a very cool thing.
I thought it was so funny. I was like, who knew that my strong South Georgia accent would be the bridge in Minneapolis, Minnesota in a Somali market?
Amen.
But it was just such a cool, hour and 30 minutes long of like we got to have gospel conversations. We got to have political conversations. We got to have conversations about what do y'all do with this in your culture? How does y'all's culture operate in this? What do y'all think about, and just, it was just the most fun. I think of the most fun of the trip for sure was that hour and a half spent in the Somali market. And I was even talking to somebody yesterday after we got back, and they were like, "Man, did you feel safe up there? Like, what was that like?" And I was like, I felt safer inside the Somali market than I did on the streets of Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Like, at no point was I like, at one point I was like, if somebody came in here, these people are going to like fight for me. Like, they got my back to that degree of like, you're not going to mess with these people because like they have shown me love and these are my friends. And that was just, man, what a cool opportunity to get to experience that.
Yeah, 100%. I've experienced the same thing. I feel much safer walking around cities in the Middle East a lot of times, the few that I've been to, than walking around in Atlanta or Savannah.
Yeah.
So, and that has nothing to do with the North or South at that point. Like, it's just, I just feel safer, because I don't know if it's a specific command within the Quran, but in Muslim culture, it's kind of ubiquitous that wherever you go, they're like, they count you as their own, and you are a responsibility sent from God for them to care for and take care of. And the back end, they receive the blessings, and it adds to their little account in the economy of God. But that's that's just part of the culture wherever you go. This is a big thing, big takeaway, both from Engage Global, but also from the rest of it is you can't love and reach someone that you are scared of. And if anybody that carries the label Muslim, you're out of the gate scared of, then there's no hope for the gospel going forward in that. What all did you see, Q? Old Q dog.
I had a different experience, and I know I had it, for a reason, and I'm still kind of trying to sort through it. But I tried to be intentional about one time me and Caroline were together, and then another time we'd split up to make sure that like we weren't using each other as a crutch or something like that, and but also just to do it together and see what it was like. And both times, I found it incredibly difficult to have like meaningful conversations with people, and I think I'll just be honest because that's all I know how to do. for sure there's like underlying racism, you know, that like is being pulled out. Not that I like inherently like am a racist person, but you know, whether it was how I was raised or, and I'm not trying to say either that it's like all my parents' fault, it's how they were raised or, you know, so on and so forth. And I was talking with Chris a little bit about this of just like being from Illinois, like, is that something he's experienced too? And he had kind of agreed. And again, I don't want to put it all off on somebody else, but like, for sure, like I was scared going in there. Like I was not like fearful for my life, but just like I don't know these people. I don't know how to engage with them.
Yeah.
And maybe that came off in the way that I was talking. But like I definitely tried to have some conversations with people, and it just felt like I was the one leading a lot of the stuff. And if you've talked with me, you know that I'm not necessarily like I can't talk your ear off for an hour. And so I got to the end of my job, my kids, and you know what I like to do for fun. And they're like, "All right, cool. Have a great time here in our mall." And I'm like, "I will." and so that was kind of one part of my experience. And then
I was curious if there was going to be sort of raised, like if guards were going to be up in that area because of all of the, you know, the Nick Shirley investigating into the daycares and the fraud, and has very high profile, and the ICE deportations and all that stuff. If like white person was going to be like a nerve wracking sort of thing for them, which understandably,
Right.
I was curious if Engage Global would even send you guys out to that this go around, but I think it's understandable.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like I said, I don't know exactly why. You know, I'm sure that there's, like most things, there's a little bit of me, a little bit of nature and nurture in there, and you know, I definitely, like, I think the thing I'm taking away is I learned a lot in the DR and in that experience, and that opened my eyes a ton. And this is also like opened up my eyes a ton in a different way of what does it really look like to engage other cultures and other people who are just different from me. And, you know, what does it look like when I'm not sitting across from a person who is also white and also has the same beliefs as me, and you know, I'm trying to help them get baptized, or they've just got saved, or they want to, you know, become heart and soul, you know, and
Which, to your credit, you've done a ton of that.
Yeah.
You know, like within your any type of salvation or baptism follow up, like of people that are cross cultural in other ways that don't have to do with skin color, right? That are still cross cultural in that regard. And so, you know, I'm trying to help you not beat yourself up so much, but at the same
Appreciate
time,
that.
like, there is a learning curve to it, which is why any type of missions organization that would send you out is going to require a certain amount of hours of cross-cultural engagement.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but it was good. I mean, it was still good, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
yeah. We've certainly had our fair share when being in Turkey and other places of people that are skeptical. I mean, but only a handful of times of people that have been like, "Hey, what you doing?" You know, or like that have been a little bit antagonistic. And I'm definitely very fortunate in that most of those encounters have been through a translator. So he handles it all, you know, and I don't have to like defend myself because I'm a lot more like you, and that like I don't have a million things to maintain small talk about.
There was one guy that was walking around the mall that was very antagonistic, and he was his whole goal was wanting a response
From you and Carson.
Well, whoever he could, because you can just tell a difference in somebody who's friendly and somebody who's like coming to be pushy and talkative. And he came up and looked me straight in my eye, didn't really say like, "Hey, how are you doing?" or anything, and he said, "What do you think about Donald Trump?" And in that moment, I just knew like this is make it or break it for us.
He's trying to create a.
I took a deep breath.
Scene.
Carson would tell you that he's like choking on his lump in his throat, and I just took a deep breath and I said, "I don't have time to get into politics. You know, we're here to support the mall, but I do believe that us as the church, you know, we're Christian believers. I do believe that we have a responsibility to love people that don't look like us, and that's what we're trying to do here." And it kind of diffused what he was wanting to do, and he just ended up walking off. And man, I turned around to Carson. I said, "Praise God that he showed up in that moment and gave me those words to speak," because I was kind of like not expecting to have to answer that question on the spot, you know. And so there,
I had a similar experience on the flight to Central Asia. A guy was sitting next to me, and we were, friendly. He was nice enough. And after a little while, he got curious enough that he wanted to ask some questions. Because at this point of the flight, I'm flying from one Middle Eastern city to another Central Asian city. There ain't no more of me on the plane.
Yeah.
It's all people from the Middle East and Central Asia. And he got curious enough to want to like strike up conversation and what you doing? What brings you out here? You staying here for a while? What are you coming to see? And then that was like questions 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then question number 5 was like, what do you think about Donald Trump? And I was like, some good, some bad. He's like, but Joe Biden. And I was like, nah, I don't think so. I don't think that one was a good one for me. He was like, no, you don't think so? And turns out he was a person that teaches in Canada. And so Canada, almost as a whole, with very few small pockets, is extremely progressive and is very, looking over the border into America is going to lean much further left. And so I think he was thinking, on the whole, this guy probably doesn't like Donald Trump and does like Joe Biden. But it's fascinating. Like they're just in those experiences. Now, he had no malice in his question.
Yeah.
He just was curious. Your guy, you can just tell, to your point of like, this guy also went on to like say, hey, do you play chess? And I was like, yeah, I've played chess. And he was like, what do you think about putting your name in that screen right there and we'll play each other? He beat me in 4 moves. And he looked at me and he said, chess, I don't think it's for you. And I was like, well, let's play again. Yeah. And then I almost beat him. I didn't quite beat him. He smoked me.
I think even as I'm thinking about, like, I just struggled to find that person of peace. Like, I just struggled to find that cultural helper.
Yeah.
But you did in the DR.
For sure. Yeah. Which, I mean, part of it is that the cultural helpers were our translators.
Yeah.
Part of it was like that was kind of the end. But, in other ways, like, there were definitely specific people.
I totally resonate with that though. Like, I mean, when the first couple times that I went to Turkey, we're going in the midst of time when like there's a mass exodus in Syria. There's tanks on the border on the southeastern portion of the country. And there was regular occurrence that we would be driving down the road and a tank would pull out behind us. And I just was very unsure of like, I'm in my heart wanting them to hear the good news that has changed my life. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, unsure of how is this dynamic going to play out based reputationally on everything I've ever been told about them people over there, right? And everybody can perceive that. Everybody can perceive, like, it doesn't matter if it's a cross language. If I'm looking at you and I can't, like, maintain eye contact, and, like, if I'm already kind of, like, postured, like, ready to, like, walk away from the conversation, you can just feel all of those things where, I'm not wired and gifted in the same way that I know Russ and Carson for sure are. Yeah. Of like, it doesn't matter. I mean, it could have been Bin Laden, and they're going to be like, "Hey, man, what's going on? It's good to see you. Like, tell me about where you're from." And like they just have that like, sort of effervescent personality where I'm like, I'm gonna go this way. Yeah, I'm gonna walk over there. Yeah. So, anyway, anything else? Anything else from the training? Anything else stand out? Somebody give me a funny story. Any monkeying around up there? Or?
Stop.
Nobody?
Mm-mm. Come on now.
No.
In light of all the other devastating social media things regarding monkeys, I'm just gonna have to say it. Kate and Stephanie saw a statue of a monkey holding male genitalia.
Yeah.
A lot of them everywhere.
A lot of monkeys.
And apparently nobody else did.
Yeah. So it's a statue related to cult idol worship in a shaman's shop.
Yeah.
So
it's to sleep good for good dreams.
So to avoid, just to go ahead and make sure there is no.
Wait, this wasn't at Shields?
If it was at Shields, it definitely would have been racial for sure.
Yeah.
So, but Shields is it not like the greatest store of all time?
Yeah, I got this water bottle.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out Carson.
Yeah. Nice.
Sponsored.
Yeah.
He bought it for
Our
me.
cola basically sponsors this whole podcast.
Yeah. Shout out
Yeah.
Septic tank.
Executive order fishing.
I think one thing just to say about the whole trip was it was really fun to have like a few staff members, a handful of college students, some business owners, and kind of people that are, working full time but are connect group leaders, and to see the dynamic of like the staff members are over here wrestling with it. The college students are wrestling with like, what am I going to do with my future? The connect group leaders and business owners are wrestling with like, how have I spent my money and my resources? And everybody's wrestling of how they play a part in the bigger picture, but we're all in like different roles in in the mission. And I just thought that was really, really cool.
All the body parts having to sort it all out.
Yeah.
That's great.
I thought it was cool too, like on top of watching everybody, like, I guess, wrestle, for lack of better words, but also just watching them all have to like kind of mesh together. Because I think that there were times when we were broken apart, like by group or whatever. Like obviously the college students sat with the college students and they were in the college student van and blah, blah, blah. But like it wasn't.
Who had the college student van?
Q Dog.
Yeah.
Q and Caroline.
My people,
Yeah. And so like we're like separate then, but I mean we all went to the same
How did
places,
you wind up
so
in the adult van?
I was in the college van.
I knew it.
Naturally.
Naturally.
You know that Kate and Caroline were inseparable.
Oh,
Yeah. Duh.
Well, and I think too, because we had like, and I think this was even cool, was like we had married couples, and so people were getting to experience like this revelation with their spouse
That
as
is
well.
cool.
And it's like now we're a team in this. Now I'm not having to come back and explain to my spouse like this new revelation and hope that they're gonna feel the same way.
Right.
And I even for people that are listening, for our connect group leaders and people that are going to go on this, I would really encourage you to try to attend Engage Global with your spouse if possible. I think that makes a huge difference after going and getting to experience it with Casey. And I feel like Carson, Reagan, Adam and Catherine, Austin and Kara would all say the very same thing. Q and Caroline.
Q and Caroline.
They just, they were with the college people, so I just for a minute thought he was still in college. So
pretty much.
Yeah.
That backwards hat. It tells a story.
Yeah.
I think.
None of you have a funny story. You're killing me right now.
I mean, I saw God move in crazy ways, in like different ways. God, me and Logan, shout out Logan Colley. We were trying to find a spot to park the van because the Somali Mall is busting, is packed.
Yes, sir.
Popping. This is like probably the first night they kept telling us this was the first night. No cap. I'm trying to think, what's another good one, Kate? Cooked. Anti-cooked. Like, the opposite of cooked.
They were cooked for
It's
2
Camp
months.
7.
I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
But, so it was like packed. There's no spots. And it's even harder to try and find a spot for a Ford Transit, and we ended up, people just park wherever they want because it's a major city. And so, like, we're like pulled into a spot. Come to find out, it was in the middle of a bridge. Come to find out, there's like a sign that says "Do not park" between this sign and this sign. And so we're like, there's like 5 other cars that are also on this bridge with us. But I'm like, man, I'd hate to like have to report to Russ like the van's towed, and it's 10 o'clock at night. And so I was like, fine, let's move. And we had spent like 15 minutes. We had missed the call to prayer, like all the things. And so I was like, I just want to get to the mall so we can do the thing that we came here to do.
Good thing you're called to pray without ceasing.
And we prayed, and I'm not joking, 5 spots down. Like, we whip out of the spot, car pulls out, just enough room to get the Ford Transit in, and I'm like,
look at God.
I probably made a fool of myself, but I was like, there is a God, and his name is Jehovah Jireh. But yeah, I saw God moving that way.
Yeah.
God moved by letting our vans get into the parking garage where I thought we were about to scrape those suckers.
Oh my gosh.
Made all of our flights.
There for sure was tons of laughter and probably some funny stories that I'm not thinking about right now.
Yeah.
But one of the funniest things was, and I'm not going to talk a lot about it because if you get to go, I want you to experience it. But there is a cross-cultural activity game that you will play. And you basically have the opportunity to split into groups, and they teach you a like fake culture language, and like you learn like what's important in my culture, and these are the things of how we're going to operate in this culture. And
how we interact with each other.
You spend like 30, 45 minutes learning this and practicing it, so that, and you're in like 2 separate rooms in the house, and then you send cross-cultural workers from your culture to the other culture to try to learn and observe. and
You make a mess of it.
you do, because
Yeah,
you're
it
like,
doesn't-
what in the
it's-
world is going on over here? And they, I end up getting kicked out of the culture because I am dangerous
dragged
and overbearing.
Yeah, you were dangerous.
Yeah.
Is what we would describe
Russ,
you as.
danger.
Yeah.
Demont.
So Carson and Q
Danger Russ.
escorted me out of their culture
Yeah.
when I was supposed to be there trying to figure out how
Yeah.
to, find a person of peace and get in the culture. But that was really funny and just that it's
Yeah.
really a lot of fun. But there is like a theme of it of you realizing like this is hard to try to like go in somewhere not knowing
Yeah.
what's going on, not knowing cues, not knowing the dynamic of language, and then I'm just supposed to like interact with these people and not make a fool of myself, which is what I did.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of laughing went into that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were trying to tell us like, this is serious, guys. Be serious, and I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
literally
I'm
walked
asking
right
people
in
about
and
their
Caroline's
grandfather. I
busting up
can't.
laughing. I was like, I don't think that's part of your culture.
So a few things kind of in closing that I sort of observed. I remember a very distinct thought when I was in Central Asia was that the American pace cannot accomplish the Great Commission. There's stuff that we don't have margin for. There's stuff that we crowd out our lives with so much busyness and financial burden and pace of life that I think that's a huge obstacle towards the completion of the Great Commission is our addiction to the American pace of life.
Yeah.
I think there's an overall air of American superiority that we live with, of thinking that it really doesn't have as much to do with the gospel as much as that we were born into speaking for our church, a majority culture evangelical church that comes with an American superiority that we live with I think that's why I was sharing this with CCLT, that I think that's what accounts for biblical illiteracy. Yeah. We just have found something that substitutes our time. It's not that we can't pick it up and read it. It's not that if we gave enough time to it that we couldn't understand it. There's certainly an abundance of resources that would help us understand it if we desired to. It's that we found something that we prefer, and that's the American dream, the American superiority of like, well, what do I need that? I'm not going anywhere. What do I need to know about God's heart for the nations? I get it. He loves me. What else do I need to know?
Yeah.
And so there's some of that I think that comes with just some of the things that I'm observing and thinking about with lessons from this last trip and working with some of our workers before. I came away with sort of a reality that strong marriages deeply, deeply matter. And we got to spend time with a couple that's there that 50% of this is the way the wife described it. The wife described it as like 50% of her ministry is cooking and baking and making sure the home is presentable for guests. And then the other 50% is the reaction of guests when her husband says something, they look at her. So like he would say something and the whole room pivots to her of like, how did she respond? Was she respectful? Is she like, and that's like her act of service to the Great Commission in that, because this is kind of what she shared, if she gets it, like the more talkative, like the more domineering personality, it's just very off-putting in that context. And it, especially if a woman is alone and expresses interest of like, you must be promiscuous and interested in me, it's like in taxis or individual rides at the store or whatever. What I'm getting at is both the American pace, but also American sensibilities are not going to accomplish the Great Commission, and the church has to do better than 1% compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
We are roughly 1% better at not getting divorces in America or Western church culture, including the UK and Europe and Australia. Like, we can't just barely be. We have to be revolutionarily better than what because the world is looking. I mean,
Yeah.
part of that with the nuclear family. Now, it doesn't matter that a lot of times in Muslim marriages, it's coerced through threat of death and physical violence and shame and ostracism. They're happy to like just let you disappear into the world and be ostracized from culture and society. Like, but what's painted on the forefront of it is respectability and strength, and this works. And I don't want any Christian to fake it. I want you to actually be transformed.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
And I think that's available to you through the Spirit of God. And so those are a few things I've observed, that marriage deeply, 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 deeply matters. The last thing I'll kind of share, just for the sake of time, I know we gotta move on, is that what the mission field requires is elder qualified entrepreneurs. That's what the mission field needs now more than ever. Not seminary grads. We need families that are willing to go to the field. We need people that are willing to go to the field that for sure have an exemplary level of Bible knowledge and theological clarity, but we don't need a lot of MDivs going to the field. That's a Master of Divinity, or we don't need a lot of theological degrees. They're not letting them in. You need an actual vocational degree, entrepreneurship, business, engineering, education, those types of things. Learn another language, something like that. Something that's like that you can go and be an entrepreneur and craft your vocation to the field that allows you to get there, stay there, and be a witness to the culture because you actually love the people. And so, and I think the love part kicks in. That's kind of what I mean by like elder qualified entrepreneurs, like elder quality, that level of leader, somebody that can go and have that level of maturity and clarity. And one guy said, he said this to our team, that if the family, specifically the husband, is not somebody that you would be excited about being an elder at your church, don't send them to the mission field. Because that's the field doesn't need low quality people. The field needs high quality people. And there's some more stuff that we could really talk through of what does that look like with singleness? What does that look like for young women specifically? What does that look like for other men that in their singleness? There's some stuff to really think through, and we could. It's not disqualifying. I'm just saying what's optimal.
Well, and I'd love to even on another podcast or something talk about like what do we do with somebody that says, I've seen it, I have the understanding, I see that this is the best thing I can do in my life, while also understanding that I still need to grow and there still are some things, but I want to give my yes now, knowing that it's going to take me 6 years to get to where I need to be. And like, what do we do with those people instead of saying, well, come back and talk to me in 6 years whenever you get all that figured out. But like, no, we want to be intentional about helping you get to that point because you put your yes on the table.
Yeah, I think there's I have a clear answer to that. I'd be glad to provide that answer, but
you have to pay for it. So
Subscribe.
if you
Subscribe. Not
visit our Patreon.
If you just want to sign and I'll turn my head. If you can give me a tip here. No, but I think it's just more of, on the one hand, like, let's look at the fruitfulness of where you are currently, and then let's assess the gap. One thing is, if you go ahead and begin the process of partnering with, whether it's Pioneers or another missions organization, they'll lay that out for you as well. But then in the meantime, I can give you clarity about what's our missiological convictions as a network, as a family of churches. We have made a decision collectively, for the most part, of how are we going to go about this, and we can help provide clarity on that.
Yeah.
And that can be an offline conversation that we have. But I think beginning to get experience in cross-cultural work where you are, whether that's Savannah, whether that's Clarkston up in Atlanta, whether that's beginning to sort of serve here and lead trips for us as a church. I think beginning to engage international students at Georgia Southern. I think there's a lot of great commission activity.
Absolutely.
But if you're not doing it here, you're not going to do it there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that's the short answer of it. I thought you had something you were going to say.
Nope. Russ said it.
Any other thoughts?
I think the last thing I would leave somebody with is if you made it this far in this podcast, then you should go to Engage Global. And if you haven't, you should beat down Russ's door. Make us make another trip to Engage Global because you want to go so badly.
Yeah.
It is worth it. Like if I could encourage you to do one thing, obviously like become heart and soul. Like versus going to
Give
Turkey.
your life to Jesus.
Yeah. In the right order, like before going to the DR, before going to Turkey, go to Engage Global, please.
Yeah.
Connection Rankin, you have to have gone through Heart and Soul, be in a Connect group, and have gone to Engage Global before you can go on a mission trip.
And I think I would stand behind those same kind of things of like, for sure, get in the right order, but please go to it. It is amazing. It is eye-opening. Every single one of us is blind in some way, and your eyes will be opened. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's good. I think I would also encourage, just refuse to do nothing.
For sure. Absolutely.
Be a goer or be a sender and find a way. There is a place in the North American church to participate in the Great Commission proactively and actively, and not just at a missions committee and not just at, Great Commission weekend, but just being a part of the DNA of who you are and what you do, which is why our mission statement is we want to connect, equip, and send God's people. And I'm so proud of the Brooks, the Waters, the Waters, because there's two families of that, the Groovers, the Navarros. I feel like I'm missing one more family. Sydney is the other one they hold the rope for those families that are on the field. They support them. They check in on them. They stay in regular communication. They send them care packages. I had to have an entire check bag to take gifts just from our folks. So thankful for all the people that gave just generously so that we could cover meals for and not just for our workers, but for the other team that we were going to meet. I just was able to go and swipe the card for everyone. And that's it just is a nice touch. Because people are generous in that way. So anyway, there's a role for you in this. And what the enemy will tempt you to do is to believe, well, I can't physically go, therefore my role is nothing. Yeah. And there's enough work to go around.
Well, and whether you're going to be a goer or a sender, there's something that you can do starting today, and that is to be somebody of prayer. Yeah. And this is something that they said Engage Global is that in the passage, Jesus looked upon them and saw that they were helpless and harassed like sheep without a shepherd. Yeah. And he said, the harvest is plentiful, but laborers are few. Pray that laborers would be raised up to go into the harvest field. Yeah. And regardless, if you're struggling to figure out, am I a sender, am I a goer, you can be a prayer. And pray for these people. Pray that God would raise up people to go, that he would raise up people to be senders. Yeah. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. It's a good note to end on. Thank y'all for taking the time. See, it wasn't so stressful, was it? No. We lived.
We're good.
We didn't die. If you guys are enjoying this, we'd love for you to click like and subscribe and to share this with someone. We just want to help grow this podcast to get it into the viewership of people that would benefit from being encouraged in their faith, specifically around things related to conversations like this. And so if you can help us and support us in that would be wonderful. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time.